Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the May 21st, 2013 meeting of the Glendale City Council. Be called to order at 6:02 p.m. May we have roll call?
Council members: Friedman, Najarian,
Here.
Quintero,
Here.
Sinanian,
Here.
Mayor Weaver.
Here. Flag salute tonight be led by Councilmember Quintero and the invocation by Reverend Matt Andrews from the First Baptist Church of Glendale. Please stand.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Standing for the invocation.
Let us pray. Lord, tonight in this room, make us an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. And where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. Grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born. May the wisdom of your peace rain down on us today and every day. Amen.
Amen. Okay, may we have your report?
The agenda for the May 21st, 2013 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Thursday, May 16th, 2013 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Okay, before we do anything else, we'll be adjourning council meeting tonight on two significant losses in our community. One I've asked the city clerk to speak about because he knew the couple very closely. So, Ms. Kasakian.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you. It is with a heavy heart that I ask that the City Council consider adjourning this evening's meeting in the memory of Alan Yakikian and Sose Tomasian Yakikian. I'd like to just say a few words about Alan, who was a dear friend, a neighbor of our families, a roommate, and basically made himself a part of our family. And there were weeks when he would spend more time in our household with my parents than I would. Alan was born and raised in Glendale at Verdugo Hills Hospital, attended Chamoyan School, and was a graduate of Santa Valley High. He attended Glendale Community College and finished his BA in history at UCLA. He was passionate about literature, computers, his Armenian heritage, Star Trek, journalistic freedom, nature, and the environment, and was a tireless advocate for justice and doing what's right. In a few years, at a very young age, he wore a number of hats. He worked at the Osparas Daily as assistant English language editor, as a chief technology officer for Operation Hope, which teaches youth from underprivileged communities about financial literacy. And his accomplishments were many, but the one he was most proud of was winning the heart of the love of his life, Sose Tomasian, a native of Orange County who was born in Newport Beach. She was a member of the Armenian Youth Federation, as was Alan, and at one of their events they met, fell in love, and less than a year ago were married in the land of their great-grandparents and ancestors, Armenia. Sose was also a graduate of UCLA. She worked at UC Irvine as the grants manager for the Beckman Laser Center, and they returned to Armenia in February when Alan accepted a position as the director of communications for the American University of Armenia. Alan and Sose were taken from us on March 10, 2013, along with their driver when they were the victims of an auto accident on the road to Tbilisi, Georgia, from Armenian Javakh in the Caucasus Mountains. Services for the young couple will take place this Saturday at St. Mary's Armenian Church on Central Avenue at 10:30 a.m. And more information can be found on the website for their foundation, www.soseandalan.com. May the Lord illuminate their innocent souls in heaven for all eternity. They will be missed dearly.
Thank you, Artie. And the other person that I'd like to adjourn the meeting in memory of is Newt Russell. He was assemblyman and state senator. He took office a year after I graduated from college back in 1964, and he retired in 1996, the year before I became a councilman. So all the years in between, I knew who Newt Russell was. Those were the days before term limits. So he served a total of 28 years in the state legislature. He died on Saturday, May 18th. Fifth generation Californian, a naval veteran and a USC alumnus. He retired from the Senate, as I said, in 1996. During the time he served on numerous boards and commissions. He was represented an area of the San Fernando Valley that included Glendale, and I don't know how the district lines were drawn back then, but he represented a significant area. He was 85 when he passed on due to lung cancer. He was an insurance agent by profession and spent most of his career being a politician instead. Just for note that his family sent me, his brother, who preceded him death, was the star of the popular television show The Lawman in the 60s. Both brothers served in World War II in the Marine Corps. John was in the Marine Corps and Newt Russell was in the Navy. He leaves his wife, Diane, 3 children, and 8 grandchildren. So, felt a connection to him. He's going to be missed. He's one of, I guess, what you call the old timers under the old way we did business in the state of California. He did a lot of great things for this region and the state of California. So, I'd like to join the meeting in his memory also. Thank you. And now, may we have the next item.
Under presentation and appointments at 3A is the agenda preview for the meetings of May 28th, 2013.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I'll start. We have a special meeting on May 28th, budget study session that will commence at 1 p.m. And this is finance. It'll be our 4th and last budget study session of the year before going into hearings in June. That afternoon for the Glendale Housing Authority, we have no business agenda items. That afternoon, again, to commence at 3 p.m., we have a joint meeting of the Glendale City Council and the Financing Authority, Director of Administrative Services. This is regarding Bank of America's proposal to purchase Glendale variable rate demand certificates of participation. This is on the 2000 Police Building project. That evening for the City Council meeting, we have a few consent items: General Manager of Glendale Water and Power, custodial services at various GWP facilities, Chief Information Officers. This is regarding Maple Park and Adams Square Library Fiber Extension Project. And under action items, we have 3. General Manager of Glendale Water and Power, Assembly Bill AB 1027, requirements pertaining to agreements by and between communication service providers and local publicly owned utilities for attachment of facilities to poles. Director of Public Works, this is fiscal year 2012-13 slurry seal program. And lastly, Director of Public Works, this is revisions to the South Brand preferential parking. And that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And may I ask a question? Fire people, do you have to get out of here quick? Or can you wait a few minutes? I'd like to put one before you. Is that okay? Okay, because we have the executive director of the Bob Hope Airport here, and where do you live, Dan? Ventura? He's got to take a train home, right?
Thank you, Mayor Weaver, members of council.
And he's going to tell us how you fuel an airplane. That's a joke, inside joke. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I can just read the item really
Yes,
quickly.
please
On the
read it
record,
first.
at 3D is presentation from Airport Authority Director Dan Fayer on the History and Art Realization Program HARP plan for the Regional Intermodal Transportation Center currently under construction.
and this has been presented to Burbank. And did you do Pasadena yet?
Have not. That's scheduled for June 17th.
Right.
I was also asked if you want to hear the State of the Airport address as well this evening, or we can schedule it for another time.
How long? I forget. How long was the state of the airport?
It's about 8 to 10 minutes to present.
Guys mind back there? Thank you for. We haven't had an update on the airport in
Okay.
a long time. So total about 10 minutes for everything? Max?
I can probably, pretty close. Let's start with the HARP, and then we'll see how much time we
Okay.
have. The Airport Authority, if I could have the next slide. The Airport Authority has embarked on what we call our History and Art Realization Program. This is a program to develop and implement a self-funding program to integrate a substantive art and history program into and onto the Burbank Bob Hope Airport that is based on the legacy and rich history of aviation in Burbank, as well as the important contribution the airport has made and continues to make to the Tri-City region. Next slide, please. So why are we doing this? First, we want to create a funding mechanism to memorialize the rich history of Burbank Bob Hope Airport in its role in the aviation industry and in the defense of our country. As you know, the airport is foundational, and has been foundational in the region's economy, and it's a strong contributor to today's prosperity in the Tri-City region. Secondly, we want to create a mechanism to provide art for all of the columns on our $112 million Regional Intermodal Transportation Center that's currently under construction. Next slide. First, let's talk about the HARP components. There are several components to the HARP program. First is what we call an Aviation History Pavilion, which will be constructed near the terminal building. We're going to talk about ritzy art columns. These are 16 art columns that are 14-foot wide by 36-foot high, located on the perimeter of our Regional Intermodal Transportation Center, and they represent significant art opportunities for public agencies and corporate sponsors. We hope to install other art exhibits, including sculptures, within the airport, and we also hope to memorialize that rich history that spans over some 80-plus years in the region. This is a rendering of the northern terminus of the elevated walkway, which is the walkway that connects the terminal building with the new Regional Intermodal Transportation Center. On the right-hand side, that tower-looking structure is the northern terminus of the moving sidewalk, and you can just see slightly off to the side the beginning of that moving sidewalk. The triangular area are the escalators and elevators that lead down from that moving sidewalk. And the area in brown represents what we're calling a history pavilion, for which we will have a memorial brick program where we'll be selling bricks that people who want to participate in memorializing the history of the airport can do so. We show a sculpture in that pavilion. I'm working right now with Lockheed to try and get them to donate an art sculpture in the form of an SR-71 that we think will be a significant contribution to the history of the airport. Next slide. This is a different view of the art pavilion, and you can see on the right-hand side is that SR-71. This is still something that the Commission has not yet fully embraced, and hopefully we can get Lockheed to step up to the plate, and maybe the Commission will then feel motivated to move forward with that component of the program. Next slide. You can see this is the tower under construction. Next slide. The second part of the program, the art in public places, part of the requirements for the Regional Intermodal Transportation Center is that a certain amount of money be spent on public art, about $377,000 to be exact. What the authority has proposed to do is to dedicate some of the columns to the art program, specifically 5 columns. And these columns have different sponsors. One column would be sponsored by the Airport Authority. One column would be reserved for the City of Burbank. One column reserved for the City of Glendale. One column reserved for the City of Pasadena. And a 5th column reserved for another public agency, such as potentially Metro or the County of Los Angeles. The authority is proposing to give a $50,000 stipend to each of those agencies to develop its own art, including the City of Glendale. Next slide. This is a very crude representation of the eastern side of the multi-level Regional Intermodal Transportation Center, and those rectangular surfaces that you see there represent those 14-foot wide by 36-foot high art columns. One of those 4 art columns would be reserved for the City of Glendale, and we would make a $50,000 contribution to the city. The city could, in turn, engage its own or commission its own artist and come up with its own art message. It would have to run through the City of Burbank Art Commission, and then it would be permanently enshrined as part of this facility. This side of the facility is adjacent to Hollywood Way, so it would be seen by many hundreds of thousands of people every day. Next slide. And that's it. The timing for that program is such that we probably will roll out the Memorial Brick program sometime in the summer. That will start generating a revenue stream that we can then use to promote the art. We will probably come back to the council sometime later in this year with the actual paperwork that goes with a stipend that would come to you. And we would hope that the art would be in place before the summer of 2016, about 2 years after the opening of the Ritzy. That'll give time for everybody to do what they have to do to develop that artwork.
Dan, I think it'd be best if you wouldn't mind to come back if you want to do the status of the airport. The meeting will agendize the time for that. Is that possible?
I can do that in about 5 minutes.
Okay, you got a deal.
Huh?
5 minutes. I think it's important to know about the Ritzy, which will be a facility not just for the rent-a-cars, but also an emergency center in case of a seismic event or whatever. That's where all the cities will send fire, police, whatever. So if you just mention that in your speech.
Okay, I will do that. We think it's important to share a little bit of information about the airport because in doing so, I think we can further our mutual goal of developing a consensus-based vision for the future of the airport. Fact is lost to no one that we've just endured our 5th year of declining passengers. This is caused by airlines offering less service at the airport. This is a trend that's being seen across the country. While we were wrestling with that decline in passengers, we are still committed to ensure that Bob Hope Airport is convenient, friendly, safe, and secure, and the Commission never compromises on that. And we're also committed to being a good neighbor, and we're trying to address the airport's long-term future by achieving a consensus about the need for a new and replacement, new facilities and a replacement terminal. The downturn in the economy has brought into greater relief how important it is the public understand what the Commission does and how it makes decisions that are financially solid and sustainable. We did a survey last year that polled people in Burbank, Glendale, and Pasadena about their what they think about the airport, and there was overwhelming strong support for the airport and also strong support for modernization of the facility. And that will set the stage for us to move forward in working with the community, working with interested parties and stakeholders to develop that consensus for a future. As Mayor Weaver mentioned, we're currently constructing a $112 million regional intermodal transportation center. That facility will create a state-of-the-art consolidated rent-a-car facility, a new bus transit facility, direct covered access to the terminal, and it will provide an emergency response facility in the event of a major catastrophe in Southern California. That building, which has been designed to resist a greater than code designed force earthquake, an MCE, maximum credible event earthquake, is being mounted on seismic isolators like your city facility here. And it's intended to be operational after an earthquake. And if there is a major earthquake, we expect that the airport will be the center of response for supplies coming in, and if it's, God forbid, that awful of an earthquake, flying injured out to hospitals outside the region.
So I want to say that's an important thing. Glendale, Pasadena, Burbank, L.A. City, probably the county, will all come together there. And having a landing field for aircraft to come in right there next to 2 rail lines, if they're functioning, will be a very, very important thing.
We've been working very closely with FEMA to ensure that if that major event happens, my understanding is once a big earthquake happens in Southern California, airplanes are loaded and they start flying to Southern California even before they know exactly where to distribute material, and they will be coming to the Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena Airport. The forecast for the future of the airport is very positive. The near-term future is going to continue to be tough. There are signs of recovery, but the forecast for passenger growth is likely flat for at least the remainder of 2013, possibly beyond. We have to find new sources of revenue, and likely we will want to develop land that's currently not developed and try and help make that part of the economic engine that will fuel the airport and the region. Our mission is to keep our costs low and to provide a high level of service. The Commission recently approved 2 programs intended to increase passenger loyalty, promote the use of the airport, and attract visitors to the region. The first is a Thanks Again program that rewards passengers with airline mileage points each time they spend money at the airport. The second program will make the Burbank Bob Hope Airport a sponsor of UCLA athletics and the official airport of the Rose Bowl Stadium.
Well, you know my take on that. I voted for it, but, you know, you got too many SC guys sitting up here.
The airport is currently trying to improve transportation connectivity between the airport and rail, bus, and other transit alternatives. We're looking forward to the construction of a new Metrolink station at Hollywood Way and San Fernando Road along the Metrolink Antelope Valley line. The Transportation Planning Board for Metro unanimously supported a motion by Councilman Najarian and Board Chairman Antonovich that would accelerate the construction of that station and provide additional funding to the airport to help do additional transportation connectivity projects. Finally, when we tell a friend or relative that we work at Bob Hope Airport, the almost universal response is, "I love that airport." What they are really saying, though, is that they love experiencing how the airport is run. And so every time we hear, "I love Bob Hope Airport," we pause and reflect that we help make that experience happen millions of times each year for the more than 4 million passengers that count on us. Thank you very much for letting me give you that short version.
Thank you, Dan. I just want to thank Mr. Quintero and I both serve on the commission, as you know. I think we have confidence that you're doing everything you can to promote growth at the airport, but we're at the whim of the airlines, who have cut back their planes, changed the configurations to pack more passengers in with flying less aircraft. So we're trying to counter in every which way, even joining up with the Rose Bowl and UCLA, whatever it takes to try to get people to understand that Bob Hope Airport is a regional airport they ought to be trying to go to rather than down to LAX. Because I know myself flying out of there, I can go in and in 10, 15 minutes max from the time I get out of my car, I'm at the gate. Try that down at LAX. I know Mr. Quintero can speak to that because he's done both, right?
Yeah. Well, the central idea also is trying to put together a transportation center. We're
Right.
well on our way with one train station on the line that goes to Ventura, Santa Barbara, etc. And now the next one, which is the line that goes to Santa Clarita and the Antelope Valley. So we're making great strides in that direction. And
It's taken a lot of work on Dan Feger's part to coalesce, bring all these different entities together. And thanks, Mr. Najarian, for getting a little incentive on the additional platform for the rail line coming in. So we'll get there yet. It's a long process. I thank you.
Thank you very much for the
Are you
opportunity.
going to catch a train now?
Home to Ventura.
Okay. See you at the next meeting. Okay. I did that because I thought it'd be wise for all of you to understand about the airport, what's going on there. Now we'll go back to 3B. Would you read that into the record, please?
3B is the proclamation designating the week of May 19th through the 25th, 2013 as National EMS Week.
How many of you are coming up? 2, 3, 4. Oh, come on, guys. If you want to come up, come on. Get on TV. I have a heart attack. I know I'm well covered here. Okay,
Mr. Mayor, members of the
wait,
City
wait.
Council?
Let me read the proclamation first.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Forgive me.
Whereas emergency medical services, EMS, is a vital public service, and whereas access to a quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas EMS plays a critical role in public outreach and injury prevention, and is evolving in its role as an important member of the healthcare community, and whereas first responders, emergency medical technicians, and paramedics stand ready to provide compassionate, life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas the members of the EMS teams, both career and volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of EMS practitioners by designing Emergency Medical Services Week. Now therefore I, Dave Weaver, Mayor of the City of Glendale, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th to 25th, 2013 as Emergency Medical Services Week, with the theme EMS, One Mission, One Team. I encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. And now when Mr. Cadero brings this down, you may speak.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, this week our nation honors emergency medical service professionals for their dedication to public service. Dozens of EMS responders give their lives every year in the service to our communities and our nation. Those who remain continue to take pride in being the people that we can depend on, even in difficult and dangerous situations. And in light of what's happened in Oklahoma over the last 24 hours, that is a very typical EMS situation that somewhere in the nation we are responding to very difficult situations. On an annual basis, the greater Los Angeles County area has approximately over 500,000 EMS incidents every year. And in Glendale, your Glendale Fire Department responded to close to 13,000 EMS incidents last year alone. The one mission is to save lives through fast, safe, and efficient service. The one team consists of dispatchers, fire department personnel, and emergency department staff. It is with great pride that we recognize those on the front lines of such a vital community service. Along with me, along with the firefighters, the first responders, the ambulance operators, our EMS staff, we have Ron Farina, from CEO of Red Cross of Glendale, and Jack Ivey. Come on up, Jack. Jack Ivey's the CEO of Glendale Memorial, and he'd like to say a few words.
I just want to recognize the EMS providers. People don't realize in hospitals that 75% of our admissions come through the emergency department. So it's essentially our front door 24/7. And with a large retirement community here, with the skilled nursing facilities, we have a lot of the senior citizens that rely on EMS service. And of course, the entry portal for hospitals for a lot of them, again, becomes our emergency department. So we're really tight at the hip with the EMS providers. So it's a significant week and a significant partnership we have in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank?
On behalf of the residents of Glendale, I want to thank you all, including the hospital, and you guys do a great job. I hear about it on a constant basis from people who have used the emergency service. So thank you for everything.
And may I add, I think back to the 1940s when I was growing up here, a fireman fought fires, and that was it. Just imagine if we were still stuck in that routine today, how many thousands of lives would have been lost, not only in Glendale, but wherever the firefighters are nationwide. I mean, it's unbelievable to think of the change that's occurred, all for the better. So congratulations to all of you, and thank you, whichever ones were up on the Glen Oaks Canyon Chevy Chase fire, for making sure my house stayed there. It's wonderful, and thank you for coming down. That's the time my wife needed emergency services from you. So congratulations, you all look very fit. I've seldom ever seen a fireman that isn't totally fit, not like the old days. Congratulations to all of you. You may all leave now if you'd like. Commissioner Sakian, what's next, please?
At 3C is a presentation of CWEA award for crew members of the Public Works Maintenance Division wastewater section.
And who am I turning to? I have...
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'll fill the time as our esteemed wastewater maintenance crew comes up here.
Well, don't be bashful.
No, they won't be. They're led by our Deputy Director of Public Works, Dan Hargrove, who's our Maintenance Services Administrator, and then their wastewater superintendent, John Hicks. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Hicks because he will be able to in a very articulate manner, tell you about the great accomplishments of this group. I'm extremely proud of these folks. I have to tell you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, when I became Director of Public Works, I put a lot of pressure on Mr. Hicks and his crews to perform certain functions as we were under more and more environmental scrutiny and regulatory scrutiny in our wastewater operation. And they have succeeded and gone beyond my wildest dreams. They have done one heck of a job. They are a fantastic crew. They do a very thankless job. They are, for the most part, unseen, but believe me, you depend on them and you want them working very hard every day. Believe me, you do. And so they've been bestowed a very well-deserved honor by the California Water Environment Association. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hicks and let him brag rightfully about his crew.
Wow. Well, thank you, Steve. And good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Ochoa, Mr. Zern, Mr. Garcia, and other members of the executive team. This award represents a high point for the wastewater section, and it comes after the investment of almost a decade in improved collection system maintenance for the city of Glendale. In 2002 and 2003, a cross-functional team of employees from across the Maintenance Services Division envisioned and created the wastewater implementation plan. A few members of that team are here tonight. Mr. Hargrove was on that team, Mr. Ortega, and some other folks who have moved on to other assignments in the city and beyond. The vision began to take place in 2004 and 2005. Through a number of initiatives over the ensuing years, we implemented the best practices gathered from colleagues in the collection system maintenance industry. That was largely a function of our professional involvement with an organization that gave us this award, the California Water Environment Association. This is the same organization that provides our technical certifications for each of us in the work group. Throughout the process, we got the people, the equipment, the support for training, and the professional incentives that got us to where we are. Our director couldn't have done that without your support. And for that, I know I speak for the entire crew. We say thank you. An old mentor of mine in another career told me once that equipment makes it possible, that people make it happen. We have about half of our crew with us here this evening. I'd like to just briefly introduce them. Many of you know longtime wastewater crew supervisor Brian Ortega, his fellow supervisor and partner in crime, Roy Rodriguez. And then we've got wastewater maintenance worker Mike Urquizo, and senior wastewater worker Rod Torres, and wastewater workers Jason Badgley, Alfonso Herrera, and one of our newest guys, Dan Ori. We didn't do this all ourselves. The public works engineering folks over the last half a decade have fixed a lot of broken sewer. And they continue to improve the capacity of the collection system. Our mechanical maintenance folks in public works keep our older equipment running, and we've been blessed with quite a bit of new equipment recently, and for that we're thankful, but there was a long time where we had to keep a lot of old stuff going. Our vendors provide the services, equipment, and other things that we need. And we couldn't do the job without them either. Our friends in Glendale and Water Power are another set of eyes for us, and they're out looking for problems. They know water when they see it, and when it comes out of the wrong place, they're sure to let us know. And last but not least, our friends in the Glendale Fire Department, on occasion, have gotten there before us. and for that we thank them. And they also build a pretty mean dike when we are trying to dike things up above the catch basin so that wastewater doesn't get away. I wanted to just give you a very quick look at where the city of Glendale has been since December of 2004. The key measure of collection system performance across our industry is sanitary sewer overflows per 100 miles of sanitary sewer. And we track that, we compute that value every month. You look back 12 months, how many SSOs have you had? You divide it by the number of hundreds of miles of sanitary sewer in the city, and you get a number. You can see that in the early years of the implementation of the program, it was kind of a roller coaster. In 06 and 07, as we were getting aligned with our colleagues in the California Water Environment Association and learning a lot about best practices, we implemented some things that ultimately got us to where we are. The award represents not only the performance of the collection system, but the performance of these guys here. The fact that they do the job safely day in and day out, and it is dangerous work. It's at street level every day. We operate big, powerful equipment, and every now and then you will hear about a collection system worker who loses his life in the course of taking care of the collection system. Most recently in 2008, one of our colleagues in the city of Burbank was inadvertently run over by a piece of equipment. So it is dangerous work, and these guys do a great job. We again are very thankful for the opportunity to have had the support we've had from Mr. Zern and the entire leadership team for the city. We enjoy what we do, and we have fun just about every day. And it just goes to show when you're enjoying what you do, eventually you get to where you want to be. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
You bet.
Mr. Mayor, if I could elaborate a little bit on the details. This award was for the overall maintenance and condition of our collection system. This group of men are the two-time local LA County chapter medium system #1 squad. And when you get that distinction in your area, then you are sent up to the state level to compete with the entire state. This last year when they won, they were sent to that state competition. Last year I think you finished second. This year they finished first. So this is a #1 medium system in the state of California.
Can you
So this
wear
is
a
what
badge or something to indicate it out in the field?
We have this wonderful flag, Mr. Mayor.
You sure? Sometimes the public wonders what we're all doing out there. You guys, it'd be nice to have something on that indicated #1 in the state of California. Stop some criticism. Might win some brownie points for all of us. But congratulations, man. #1 in the state. That is remarkable. So hats off to you. Another first for Glendale. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening. Okay, what is next, please?
At 3 is appointment of Tallene V. Yakubian as a member of the Civil Service Commission to commence on June 1st, 2013. This was appointment of nomination of Council Member Najarian.
Mr. Najarian.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I would like to nominate at this point Tallene Yakubian to the position currently held by Mr. John Gantis on the Civil Service Commission. My deep thanks to Mr. Gantis, who held his position on the commission long beyond its normal date of termination. Ms. Yakubian is a graduate of Pomona College. She is a graduate of George Washington University Law School. She has been an attorney for over 20 years. She has been an extern for federal judge Dikran Tavrizian. She is experienced in matters of employment law and discrimination. I think she would be an excellent addition to the Civil Service Commission.
We do have a card, but first, is there a second for that?
I'll second the nomination.
Okay, I have one card. Herbert Milano, 2 minutes.
Mayor Weaver, members of the City Council, and staff, my name is Herbert Milano. First, I want to say that I think it is a good idea to have a woman in this position. I think the Civil Service Commission needed a woman for a very long time, and I think especially appropriate that there's someone with a legal background, as often this is a quasi-judicial position. Although I did want to ask the question, the name sounds very similar to Mr. Najarian's sister's married name. I just wonder if she was a relative. Thank you.
Let me answer that.
Yes, go right ahead, Mr. Quintero.
She is not.
Is that correct, Mr. Najarian?
She is not my relative.
That settles that. I know I read her resume, and boy, very impressive, very impressive. Not only having a woman on for a change, but her background is sterling. She's got to be a great replacement for John Gaddis. Maybe she'll even show him up. Who knows? We'll see with time. So I sure third that motion. So there's no other questions, comments. Roll call, please.
Council members Friedman, Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Sinanian,
Yes.
Mayor Weaver.
Aye. And you're not in the audience, are you? You got to meet her sometime. Okay. What is next, please?
Next agenda item is City Council and staff comments.
Comments, anyone? Good. All right. Oh, Jess Duran.
Mayor Weaver, members of the City Council, if I may. My name is Jess Duran, Director of Community Services and Parks for City of Glendale. I just want to take this opportunity to announce and to remind the public that the city is now in the process of soliciting and accepting donations from the community for the 2014 Rose Float for the 125th running of the Rose Parade. And it is definitely not too early to start talking about the Rose Float, not when you have to build it and design it and get all the pieces in place. This particular float will be a historic float, as it will mark the 100th consecutive year that the City of Glendale has had a float entry in the parade, a second in longevity only to LA City. Along with this historical milestone, the city is providing a unique opportunity to the community where, with a donation of $25 or more, community members will be eligible to enter a raffle drawing for a chance to win 2 tickets to actually ride on the float on New Year's Day and represent the city of Glendale. To be eligible, donors must be Glendale residents and 12 years or older, and riders will have to be able to meet at City Hall at 4 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Eve day, and also come back at 4 o'clock in the morning the next day on New Year's Day to be chaperoned to the parade and ride on the float. Riders also have to be amenable to wearing a costume depending on the float design, so that has to be part of it. And anyone interested in donating to the float should call Patty Betancourt at 548-2752 or log on to the city's or to departments, Community Services and Parks Department's webpage at ci.glendale.ca.us/parks. In addition, the city is in the process of also soliciting corporate sponsorships with a targeted contribution of $25,000 per sponsor. The sponsor package includes participation on the Rose Float Design and Selection Committee, prominent representation of the company or corporation's logo, name, or branding on the float design incorporated into the float design, the sponsor name or logo on all of the advertising associated with the city's float. At least 2 seats on the float will go to a sponsor. The sponsor will receive an official Tournament of Roses framed a photo of the float with the official Tournament of Roses plaque. A sponsor will receive tickets to the float participant reception organized by Tournament of Roses. That's a very prestigious reception. A sponsor will also have the opportunity to hold their own private reception at the Phoenix Decorating Warehouse while the float is being built and or decorated. A sponsor will also have the opportunity to organize their own volunteer workday to decorate the float, and will receive 2 to 4 grandstand tickets for their sponsorship. So again, anyone interested in a corporate sponsorship should also call Patty Betancourt at 548-2752 or the Community Services and Parks website. Thank you.
Mr. Duran, how much are we looking to raise?
$150,000.
$150,000 is the cost of the float, so that would be the ultimate goal, to cover the cost of the float.
And also, this is the 100th year of the Rose Bowl game. It's also the 125th year of the Rose Parade. So 3 big events occurring this year, so it is special. And if you want to bring the group to work on the Rose Float, you'll be contacting me, as I chair the decoration of the float. And I encourage all people that want to work, from 13 to 80, welcome to come out. I'll put you to work. Thank you, Mr. Duran.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I have a great idea on who we can ask to sit on the float.
No, not Kim Kardashian.
But I'm gonna keep it under wraps for now.
I hope it's not Kim. She's pregnant. I stole your thunder, didn't I?
No, you can talk about the float, Mr. Quintero, or something else. No. I just wanted to state, just to remind everyone, out of fairness to Ms. Friedman, she's not with us tonight because she did take a jet to Washington to lobby on behalf of our interoperable communication system that we have with our group of cities, the ISIS system.
I
Yes.
wanted to mention, actually, that the memorial commemoration here at the city of Glendale, the Glendale Veterans Coalition is going to have some tabletop displays that talks about the organization, what we're trying to do, the outreach that we're doing, asking for volunteers. So whoever attends or who's ever interested in veterans issues, don't forget our Memorial Day commemoration. And I believe you're going to actually show the...
We may have a slide, but Councilmember Quintero, just a reminder again that Monday, as we remember, not only the over 6,700 Americans who've lost their lives in the last 10 years in Afghanistan and Iraq, but memorializing all those individuals who have given their lives from the city of Glendale. There will be a ceremony taking place right here on the campus of City Hall on the corner of Isabel and Broadway at 9:30 a.m. Again, it's just outside of the City Hall complex right here on the corner where we have our war memorials on which the names of those from Glendale who have perished have been memorialized. Again, the program begins at 9:30 a.m. on Monday, May 27, and is sponsored by the Patriotism Committee of Glendale Veteran Coalition. Any resident is welcome. The event is free and open to the public and is a wonderful and touching way to remember those who have given their lives for our freedoms.
And first service that day is at 8 o'clock in Montrose, corner of Ocean View and Honolulu. I'll be up there at 8 and then down here at 9:30. And Forest Lawn at 1:30. I'll read the presidential proclamation so you have ample opportunities to go to one or the other. These will be a long day for me, but it's well worth it. So pick your place you want to go. Okay, any more comments? Fine, let's move on.
At 5 under consent items, we have the following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. A member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before motion is proposed.
And I have cards on 5B and F. Is there a motion on the remainder?
Remainder of the consent calendar.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Council members Friedman, Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Sinanian,
Yes.
Mayor Quintero, Mayor Weaver.
Aye.
Sorry.
Oh, no Freudian slip. It's okay.
Still fresh.
Okay, read 5B into the record.
5B is Director of Community Services and Parks regarding Pacific Park and Community Center Campus Wayfinding Project in connection with spec number 3510 at B1's resolution adopting plans and specs and directing city clerk to advertise for bids.
Herbert Milano. 2 minutes.
Mayor Weaver, members of the City Council. In October of 2009, Hunt Design was selected to do the wayfinding for the downtown area. I happen to remember because the gentleman whose firm was selected happens to be or was an instructor or the teacher for my son at our Center College of Design. So I seem to remember, and I was looking forward to seeing those designs put in place. But every time I drive by Brand Boulevard, I don't see those signs. It's been quite a while. The presentation was made to a group of downtown stakeholders in January of 2011, and it was referenced again. So I just wonder, this is the same firm. The original contract was in 2009. I see on the web many of these very beautiful designs, but I don't see them implemented. And I just wondered, if maybe, staff should look further into this agreement. Thanks.
Can you add anything, Mr. Chua?
If the reference is to the overall kind of branding program that the city embarked upon, we continue to roll that out on a more micro scale because with the dissolution of redevelopment, all of the funds that would have been used to do any kind of large-scale type of rollout have since been absconded with by the state of California.
Thank you. Any other comments? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Council members Friedman, Najarian,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Tanyan,
Yes.
Mayor Weaver.
Aye. Please read 5F into the record.
5F is Director of Administrative Services Finance regarding refund of utility users tax to Glendale Unified School District, USD. F1 is a motion approving refund in the amount of $45,497.81.
Ms. Milano, 2 minutes.
Mayor Weaver, members of the City Council and staff, my name is Herbert Milano. Earlier today, I was at the Glendale Unified School District as they were having some discussions concerning their shortage of funds and how they have to now combine several classes. Particularly, that was sort of interest to me was the fact that they did not have sufficient funding for maintaining the Spanish classes. So they're combining kids in the third grade. The idea is that it's a great concept that the city is refunding to the school district expenses that perhaps should not have been charged to them. But I presented to the City Council a few years ago, and I've done it almost every year, this particular state law that prohibits the city or the Glendale Water and Power from charging any cost above the cost of delivering the service. And I had gone to the Glendale Unified School District. I used the California Public Records Act. And it appears from all of those records that the city was still charging the full service fees, basically the commercial rates, to the school district. And I was wondering if those charges have already been readjusted also, or if the school district has been refunded all of those millions of dollars of overcharges with regard to the way that the city charges another public utility. This happens to be a California law, not a constitutional law, where one entity, a public entity, cannot charge another public entity, being, let's say, the Department of Motor Vehicles or the college district or the school district, an amount in excess of the cost of delivering the service. Thank you.
Mr. Chua?
I believe City Attorney has also looked at this as well. We have different classes for electric ratepayers. School districts are not broken out as a separate class, but rather by the size of the service. I don't believe we have overcharged the school district, and that's been verified.
That's correct. We haven't. I think the issue that was raised previously by Mr. Milano had to do with capital facilities charges. Our charges are not capital facilities charges. They are the cost of delivering the service. So we have a different interpretation of that law. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I'll move the item.
Second. Roll call, please.
Council members Friedman, Najarian,
Yes.
Taro,
Yes.
Sinanian, Mayor Weaver.
Aye. Next, please.
Next is oral communication. This is the portion reserved for 3-minute community announcements, but
There are none?
parts of
Another good omen. Okay. Next, please.
We will continue, by the way, to the full 5-minute portion at the conclusion of city business. 8A is Chief Information Officer regarding maintenance service for the fire company inspections. iPad application. 8A1 is a motion authorizing execution of an amendment to the agreement with EdgeSoft, Inc. for 5 years for annual maintenance service at $12,500 for the first year and 3% yearly increases for a total not to exceed amount of $66,365 for the 5-year term.
Mr. Choi.
Yes, sir. We have a rather interesting program where we've been able to use iPad technology in the fire department. Our applications administrator, Hago Povasepian, will give you a brief presentation.
Mayor Weaver and esteemed council members, my name is Hago Povasepian. I'm with the IS department as the applications administrator. The report that stands before you is a request for a 12-month maintenance agreement with EdgeSoft, the vendor, to increase the efficiency and operations of fire using iPad technology. Just to give you a brief history of where we are with the application, it is still in its infancy form. It's been about a year since we've implemented it. So it is evolving, and with this maintenance agreement, we'll be able to continue to move that forward. The objective of this project was to stop the double work that is happening in fire. This is going to allow fire to do inspections on site, do everything mobile, right there with the business owner or the resident, and be done without having to do double entry at the station. I'm going to go ahead and ask the fire chief to come up to go ahead and give a quick demo, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, and City staff. What you're going to see on the screen is the application once it's all hooked up, and then I'll go through it real brief.
Sure you're checked out on this rig?
Well, I don't know. We could be taking a chance right here.
It's in its infancy.
Harold, while we're putting this together, why don't you explain how the company inspections have taken place over the years?
Absolutely. You know, in the past, the way we did our fire company inspections is, we have all the hard or the paper files in the stations. So the firefighters would say, hey, we're going to go do 5 or 10 inspections today. They'll grab those paper files, or grab all their files that go along with that, and they'll go out and do the inspection and write up the inspection report out in the field. When they got back, they would enter all of that information into the system, into the computer system, so we had the data and put the hard copy back in the file. So when we moved to this product several years ago into CSI, a little bit longer, one of our goals in the fire department was to be able to do mobile inspections. That was important for us, so we can eliminate the front end, hopefully eliminate the back end, and then we would be in a good place when we got ready to do the inspections, which would create more efficiencies for our firefighters out in the field. How are we doing there?
I can't stall anymore for you, Harold. I know you guys tested it before we came in, but...
That's what happened last week, too.
I can kind of hold it up and show you. I think he said you had to go to that 6 number on that remote. But 6 was the one.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, perfect. There you go. Well, I'll stand over here and I'll talk loud. We have a mic right there. Patients, as you can see.
There you go. Go back to the
It's on there now.
Hey, with the rabbit ears.
So the application, this would be the first screen that they would see. And then on that first line, it would say engine name. And then I'll pick engine 21B. They're going to be happy because I'm going to take care of one of their inspections right now. Hit find all of engine 21's inspections, and I'll just pick the Old Navy store. So all this list right here, this would be all the inspections for that particular fire company. This is what they would see while they're out in the field doing it. And I'll pick the Old Navy. So it's finding it. So now we're in our inspection report. The first section says business owner info. Any of these fields, it would actually change that line at the bottom, and it would automatically tell me I need to do an update as a reminder that I've just changed something and I need to do an update. On the form, you see how that line turned red? That means that I made an adjustment in that field, and before I leave, I have to do an update. to the occupant info, and that's where all the information is. So if I wanted to say, okay, I see an email address right there, and I wanted that to be my contact, I would check that box right there. That line just turned red right there, and I would have to do an update. And I would information with the occupant to make sure it's still current. If they had any fire protection systems on site, I would punch in whatever they had on site, and it would be listed right here for the firefighters to pick. Or if I wanted to add equipment, you'll see a list of all the different equipment that a business or a residential multifamily dwelling can have. And if I wanted to add a new one, I would hit it, and it would actually punch that in. And then we get to the actual inspection sheet. So these are the violations. So we have test and certifications, one category. Then we have general inspection items. We have exiting. And we have all the different things, electrical that we check, or if there's another fire code violation and I need to add it from myself, I can check that box right here, and then I can actually type into that field whatever the fire code violation is right there. So when I'm all done with this, and I'm done and I want to make a couple of notes on what happened, what took place, there's places in here for the firefighters to write notes on when they did the inspection, how long it took, 30 minutes or so. We bill on a 30-minute increments in the fire department, so they would get a bill for a 30-minute inspection. But after I'm all done, I want to see what my form looks like, and that's our inspection form, F-230. It would take up to 30 seconds to come up, that's what I'm being told. And there's the inspection form right here. So now I'm all done with the inspection. I go over this form with the business owner, and I'd ask the business owner to sign that form for me with their signature. Then that would go onto the form, and then I would be ready to send that to this business owner in the form of an email. I check that box so their email address is already in there, and I would launch it right there, and the inspection would be done. That's how quick and easy it is, and no program is fail-safe. You know, obviously with phones and iPads and computers, every now and again we're going to have a failure or a crash. Then you would just restart it and start over. But this is basically how simple the program is to work. It eliminates the redundancies out in the field, and it should create some more efficiencies for our operation in the fire department. And we're able to track our data. That's pretty important for us. Since we've started retraining our personnel with the program that's been updated, we've completed over 150 inspections in the last 2 to 4 weeks. So we're able to see that in the database, at a glance. So I can see how everybody's doing in the organization. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr.
Chief, are
McBride.
these annual inspections that are performed?
It's a combination. These are annual, biannual inspections, but one of the things, a lot of the inspections are annual inspections.
So there's a list of businesses I saw on that fire engine.
Yes.
And throughout the year, they would just go business to business and say, let me see make sure your fire safety equipment is
Exactly.
current.
Systems have to be tested annually. Some require 5-year tests. Multifamily dwellings require the annual inspection. So each fire company has a list of businesses in multifamily dwellings. They have them assigned by fire block. The fire blocks are based on the different districts that the fire stations are in, and each company would be assigned between 10 and 20 fire inspections a month.
And so the engine goes out to that location, or is this a fire marshal or someone that...
Both. Every engine company has fire inspections that they have to perform. Some have vegetation management inspections, as well as business and residential inspections, as well as our Fire Prevention Bureau. They also have responsibility for schools, institutions, high-rise, a lot of the hazardous materials inspections and things like that.
So does that take a lot of your time?
Takes a great deal of our time, but it's pretty important that we do it. You know, we focus on 3 different things. We focus on response, being able to go to the call and solve the problem. We focus on prevention. That's a big deal for us, very important, stopping the problem before it happens. And then we focus on education. So that's one of our 3 things that we focus on.
I don't want to get too far afield, but do we pay overtime for any of these inspections when they're done?
No, we don't pay overtime. This is a part of our daily business, a part of our core functions. So we don't pay our firefighters overtime to go and do fire inspections. No, that's not what we do.
As opposed to a firefighter who is on.
So
That's doing that in the normal course of the day.
it takes a lot of time.
That's correct.
It takes a lot of time, but it's going to take a lot less time than the old way.
Yes, that is correct.
Mr. Nania.
Chief, in response to Councilmember Najarian's question, when you said both an engine and a fire marshal, did you mean an engine or a fire marshal depending on the type of location that's being inspected?
I do. I misspoke, Councilman Sinani. It's an engine, firefighter, or a fire inspection. It depends on the complexity. Some of the fire inspections require a lot of training, a lot of education, inspecting the high-rise buildings, inspecting the hazardous materials facilities, inspecting the schools, inspecting the hospitals, the new construction that's coming up all over the city. A lot more complex. The firefighters get the lesser of the two.
So if there's a call, you go on the call. No, you don't send another engine company for that call. This is stuff that you just fill in homework, more or less, to do throughout a period of time throughout the year.
Yes,
Okay.
that's absolutely correct. Our core mission is response.
Okay, I got
as
you.
our firefighters were here earlier, radios were going off, calls were going off. Our core mission is response.
So the high-rise is much more complicated than, say, Mr. Quintero's house.
He's done some work, though.
Maybe so. I'm not sure.
Did you hear that? I said the high-rise would be a lot tougher than inspecting your house.
All right. Basic house on a hillside.
There you go.
On the hillside, yeah. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
A roll call, please.
Council members Friedman, Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Nanyan,
Yes.
Mayor Weaver.
Aye. And that's going to be great to have. We're getting closer to a paperless society. Okay, next, please.
8B is General Manager of Glendale Water and Power regarding GWP's Energy Risk Management Policy. B1 is a motion authorizing replacement of the existing policy dated August 18, 2009, with a revised version dated February 27, 2013.
And Mr. Choa.
This is a rather standard update to our policy. It was last updated or revised on the 27th of this year. We'd like to bring it now before council. Steve, are you going to have Eric talk about it? Or are you going to?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is just I'm going to ask Eric Campbell, our financial administrator for GWP, to come up and just go over some of the revisions we've made. But this is, as Eric will tell you, we have a new team in GWP, so we have systematically gone through policies, procedures, and the way we do business. And this is one of the first things we went after as far as reviewing. Mr. Campbell headed up a team that included Mr. Elliott, Ms. Beers, myself, Mr. Lynn, so rather the city auditor, the city attorney's office are all involved. And he did a great job of getting this updated and getting us to the point where we're at now. And this is something we're going to continue to update on an annual or biannual basis to bring back to you, because it did lapse a little bit. But with that, I'll let Mr. Campbell go through the details of the revisions that we've made.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council and City Governance, my name is Eric Campbell. I'm the Finance Administrator for Glendale Water and Power. Mr. Zern just summed it up pretty well, and I could bore you with details here for a bit, but just a few couple of quick points I'd like to call out is this really is just a refresher. You know, when you're running a business and you get new leadership, you change things and you kick the tires on things, and that's what Mr. Zern has done here. One of the key things I'll call out is, as you know, we've pulled the finance department out of the utility, and this is a good example of some good teamwork between the finance team and the operations folks. So that's those are really good things. We've clarified some roles and responsibilities. We've clarified some of the reports and content that I will be publishing to the city manager and the senior leadership team. We've kick-started the risk committee, so if there's an issue that is significant to power supply or fuel supply, it's going to be dragged through and run through and vetted in front of this risk committee, which Mr. Zern mentioned, contains him, the city manager's office, Bob Elliott, myself, and the chief AGM of power supply. Last but not least, I guess a new item that we've kind of expanded on is around just some planning of strategy, which is your basic overall objectives. We've clarified some of that work, which then lets us do some additional documentation around how we're planning to manage the variance in prices. So a lot of good work, teamwork, and I think you'll see some good results out of this operation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Council members Friedman, Najarian,
Yes.
Otero,
Yes.
Nanyan,
Yes.
Mayor Weaver.
All right. What's next, please?
Next is oral communication. Discussion is limited time, is not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the council may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. City manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for an investigation and a report.
Herbert Milano.
Thank you very much, Mayor Weaver, members of the City Council. My name is Herbert Milano. I brought with me a PowerPoint presentation. And the reason why I bring it up here as opposed to the budget study session is that the way you've structured the budget study session, you wait until the very end of the session, and then I cannot bring up issues that I would have loved to have seen the City Council discuss. So since the police budget and the fire budget have not been presented in any type of major detail, I figured I'd bring this up so that I can point out a couple of trends.
Technical difficulty.
All right. All right, so I put together information from 2003 for the last 10 years on the cost trends. The information comes from the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. And you begin to see that this is a combined police and fire cost. And the reason why it's combined is that up until 2006, the CAFR combined everything into safety, and then after 2006, we have it broken down into police and fire. And then we also had the paramedics initially as an enterprise fund, and then it was moved into special funds. And then you had the communications brought back into the enterprise fund, and so I needed to just basically put them all together. And these are the costs as they appear as they are combined on the CAFR, and I can provide you with the source documents. But basically, we have from 2003 a combined budget of nearly $74 million, going up steadily up to $137, $38 million. And that's a fairly significant, steady increase. I could not find the reason why it dropped in 2004. I only have a guess as to why the trend might be lower for that particular year. Perhaps a lot of people decided to retire, given the fact that the benefits were much higher then, and then you have a lot of new employees taken in. Nonetheless, here are the summaries. Whereas the population declined by about 3%, households declined as well, but the safety costs increased, and the cost per household went basically about $1,000 more per household. Now, I decided to take a look and see, well, what were the crime trends in Glendale? And you can see, my God, we have had a fairly significant decrease in the crime trends since 1985, peaking at around 1991 or so. And you still find in the last 4 years or so a significant decline in property crime. Here we have violent crime, also going up and down, but declining significantly since 1991. And again, during Mr. Chief DePompa's reign, it continued to decrease significantly. So both property crime and violent crime is down significantly in the last 4 years, and significantly by a tremendous amount, over 50% since 1991. So here it is, since 2003, 21% decline in property crime and 36% decline in violent crime. So now you have two sets of data, and you figured, well, is there more information about these trends that you should look at? Is the trend means that maybe certain parts of Glendale are getting more attention, or different types of violent crime are being attended to and not others? Looking at the data, you find that, for example, vehicle thefts have come down significantly by a big margin. So you ask the questions, what are the factors that lead to that kind of decline? And let's do more of it if it is under our purview. So nonetheless, these two costs, the costs of let me go back in here, are they justified? And I think that is the question that you should ask. We have a doubling of the costs, and we have a significant decline in the crime rates. And basically, I'm just leaving it up to you. Of course, you could always say that during the last 5 years of the decline, I didn't live in Glendale, so you could do a correlation and say, well, maybe Mr. Bolaños should stay out for another 5 years. Nonetheless, I just bring it up for your attention that these are perhaps the things that merit your further inquiry as you bring up issues concerning police and fire. Thank you.
Next speaker, Jose Jimenez.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Jose Jimenez, and I was here last week. I was a little nervous last week. I didn't think I'd be as nervous today, but I am.
Again?
I am. Mayor Weaver, City Council. I wasn't planning on leaving my notes for you last week to read, and I knew I had spelled some words wrong, and so I want to apologize to Ms. Friedman for spelling her name wrong. Have you ever watched a TV program like Lost or 24? After every episode, there's a cliffhanger, and you can't wait to find out what will happen next. And I felt as though I left the citizens of Glendale with a cliffhanger last week. I shared with you my dissatisfaction with the May 7th meeting, my years living in Glendale and working for GWP, how we, the employees, are the body, heart, and soul of GWP. The overtime strike back in the late 70s, which resulted in a major injury to an employee, comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges. Firefighters and police officers wearing their badges proudly, and they stand tall. And I know they're proud and they stand tall because I was there when my daughter placed a Glendale firefighter's badge on my now son-in-law. We electrical workers are proud, but it seems as though no one really cares about us until the wind starts to blow or the rain starts to come down, or even in extreme heat and the power's out. But we take pride in what we do because our co-workers and citizens of Glendale depend on us. Now, last week I left off with my trucks being stolen. 1 month living in Glendale. Something was taken from us, my wife and I. I felt violated. I didn't give them permission to take it, but they did. And just a few months ago, I received a pay cut, and now another pay cut. Something was taken from us, and I thought, why? What did I do to deserve a pay cut? I haven't used a sick day in over 10 years, outstanding reports year after year. A pay cut? Well, I was stunned. In 32 years, I have never gone in reverse. A council member made a statement in the news press about some of the salaries of upper management employees. And the comment was, we want to keep the best. Well, doesn't that apply to GWP as well, since we all work for the city of Glendale? We spent thousands and thousands of dollars training apprentices in hot stick, rubber gloving, 12 kV, Class A license, truck training. So they can just use Glendale as a stepping stone and leave to another utility. Don't we want a strong, thriving utility or a depleted utility with dejected employees? You see, we who live in Glendale have a top-of-the-line Cadillac fire department, a top-of-the-line Cadillac police department. Don't we want a top-of-the-line Cadillac GWP utility department as well? Or just a Vega or a Pinto, or even worse, a Yugo? The ball is in your hands. You have the power to fix it. You are the city council. You are my city council. I had a streetlight knocked down the other day over on Maryland, and when I arrived, the car was up on the sidewalk, the light was down, so I secured the area, placed a barricade over the broken base, and picked up this broken streetlight, put it in my van. And then I picked up my card to give to the officer. Then I picked it up and I saw our vision. And it says, to deliver reliable, high-quality, environmentally sensitive, and sustainable water and power service to our customers in a caring and cost-competitive manner, creating a stimulating and rewarding work experience for our employees. Creating and stimulating a rewarding and work experience for our employees. May God grant you wisdom. May God bless the city of Glendale. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Jose, you did very well. Next speaker, Sharon Wiseman, followed by Bill Wiseman.
Mayor Weaver, council members, staff, and those listening. I'm Sharon Weissman from Far North Glendale, and I missed last week's meeting because I went to the ACLU meeting, which was on civil rights for the gay and lesbian community, and I was encouraged to speak out about something that's been troubling me. As a member of the Glendale Education Social Justice Advocate Steering Committee and Vice President of the Glendale Human Relations Coalition, I've been troubled by Councilmember Zara Sinanian's unfortunate online comments and the reaction to them. I've been heartened, on the other hand, to see so many brave people from groups maligned in the comments come to City Council and speak up to refute them. In trying to find more positive outcomes from this situation, I thought of some lessons the community can learn and steps Councilmember Sinanian might take. First, I think it's very clear that we should all take care to not post anything online that we wouldn't say in person. Just because anonymous comments are possible online doesn't mean we should give free rein to our baser impulses and voice whatever foul thoughts come into our heads. As we see, things thought to be anonymous can be linked to your name. The internet can be a window into other cultures and possibilities. How sad to see it used for spewing hateful comments that don't add to the accumulated human knowledge or share anything useful. As a positive result, it's a positive result if all those who've read about Mr. Sinanian's acknowledgement and eventual apology for his earlier comments vow to never post anything similar. Perhaps Mr. Sinanian will volunteer to give talks to young people about the pitfalls of unrestrained online posting. It might help mitigate the online culture where insulting, hurtful comments are all too common. Glendale Unified School District's Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting annual campaign might be a good time for him to also step up. He could volunteer to meet with gay straight alliance clubs on campus or groups supporting female, Latino, or Muslim students. Exposure to a few courageous people here who have spoken over the past few weeks raised Mr. Sinanian's awareness of the value of diversity. More interaction will be even more enlightening, I think. Political organizations and individuals who support candidates should learn they need to look into a candidate's background very closely. I hope that if it had been known that Mr. Sinanian made those comments, he wouldn't have had so much support. We can all broaden our viewpoints by seeking out events to help us appreciate our differences. If Glendale can afford a Unity Fest this year, I hope Councilmember Sinanian takes a very active part in the planning, particularly reaching out to those groups he previously insulted. In preparation, he could attend gay pride events. The largest one in Southern California is coming up June 7th through 9th in West Hollywood. You can look at the website lapride.org for details. More resources for learning about diversity are the National Organization for Women. Their website is now.org. The Human Rights Campaign's Welcoming Schools program, that's welcomingschools, all one word, .org. And the Southern Poverty Law Center's Teaching Tolerance program has a great deal of material on their website. That's splccenter.org. And the spring 2011 issue of the Teaching Tolerance magazine has an article on combating anti-Muslim bias. There's also Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, MALDEF, which is MALDEF.org. Both organizations I mentioned earlier, Glendale Education Social Justice Advocates and Glendale Human Relations Coalition, need help around the city. And if anybody listening is interested, please email me. We want to promote education, mutual respect, and tolerance in Glendale. And you can contact me at sharon@jetcafe.org. And thank you for your time this evening.
Last speaker, Bill Wiseman.
Good evening, Mayor Weaver, City Council members, City staff, and the public. My name is Bill Weissman from far north Glendale, As you probably recall, last week there was a discussion of the city pitching in to offer a reward in the case of the bicyclist in Griffith Park who was victimized by a hit-and-run driver. And there was a fair amount of discussion regarding that agenda item on what we could do to help improve the bicycle safety situation in Glendale. And I would like to make you aware of the following opportunity to augment our bike safety via funding through Caltrans. Caltrans has recently announced a call for projects, Cycle 6 of the HSIP, the Highway Safety Improvement Program. Applications for this program are due on Friday, July 26th. Safe routes to school projects can be considered as part of this call. What I really wanted to emphasize is that usually these grants from Caltrans for bicycle support are usually only for infrastructure. They're usually only there for building stuff. For the first time, non-infrastructure elements are now available through this Caltrans grant, and those non-infrastructure elements include safety education, traffic enforcement, and emergency medical services. So those non-infrastructure items are now eligible as components of an overall infrastructure project. This represents a significant opportunity for city staff to apply to the Highway Safety Improvement Program for bike projects and bundle in education programming and enforcement activity to complement those infrastructure projects. Now, I've put this information into an email to all city council members and to Mr. Ochoa and Mr. Zern, and I've included in there a link to the Caltrans website that discusses the requirements for funded applications with non-infrastructure elements. It's my hope that the City of Glendale can take advantage of this opportunity to augment our bicycle safety without financial impact to our general fund. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. That's my last card. What is next, please?
Unless there's any new business, just entertaining a motion to adjourn in
The memory of Newt Russell
Senator
and
Newt Russell and Alan Yakikian and Sosa Tomasian Yakikian.
we'll move. Second. We stand adjourned at 7:29 p.m.